Hello to everyone. Marijuana is on the news everywhere, all around the world in these days. You might have heard that in the US, the actor Woody Harrelson had admitted last week that he once used marijuana to get through a dinner with Donald Trump. But on a more serious note, in Germany, Angela Merkel is trying to form a new coalition with 3 different parties. And one of the first things they agreed on was to legalize marijuana completely, which is maybe no surprise if you know that this coalition is called the Jamaica Coalition because of the colors of the parties involved. But today we are talking about the medical use of marijuana. Let me introduce our 2 panelists. Brendan Kennedy and his team have raised 82 million to launch a portfolio of cannabis brands, including portfolio companies Tilray, Marley Natural, and Leafly. Prior to founding Privateer Holdings with 2 other partners, he served as COO of SVB Analytics, a non-affiliate of Silicon Valley Bank, and as a CEO and president of Mindability, a software company focused on customer experience measurement. And João Moura is a pharmacist and he leads Biocant, a Portuguese science park entirely devoted to biotechnology. It's a venue devoted to advanced life sciences knowledge where technology is developed and applied, creating value and business initiatives. He also serves as the president of the Municipal Assembly of Cantanire, and he used to be mayor of this city. Brendan, your background is financial. You used to work in the VC business. When did you have the idea to invest in medical marijuana?
So in May of 2010, I was sitting in an office in San Francisco, and every day I had venture capital firms and venture capital-backed companies come into my office, and I would listen to their pitches. And in May 2010, a technology company from the medical cannabis space in California came into my office, and when I went back to my desk and searched all the databases I had access to for cannabis, medical cannabis, lots of synonyms for cannabis, nothing came up. I had no results, and that intrigued me. And so I spent the next year going around the world talking to growers, cultivators, processors, patients, pharmacists, physicians, activists around the world in California, British Columbia, Jamaica, Israel, Spain, the Netherlands, anywhere where there was some form of legal cannabis. And at the end of that year, I realized that cannabis was a mainstream medicine consumed by mainstream patients around the world, that the end of prohibition was inevitable, and that well-respected medical brands would shape the future of this industry.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe a little bit what kind of products your companies produce?
So we grow plants, first of all. So we cultivate plants in Canada and soon here in Portugal. I guess as of last week, we have very small plants here in Portugal, soon to be much larger. And then we cure the plants, we dry them, dehydrate them, and then the next step is either to process and package that whole flower. For many of the other products, we then do things like extract. So we extract a whole spectrum oil. Sometimes some of the products are a whole spectrum extract. We produce capsules, gel caps, working on lots of other delivery technologies such as dry powder inhalers, patches, different form factors so that people don't have to smoke.
One of your companies is located in the business park that you created. Can you explain, João, a little bit why it's so attractive for companies to come to Portugal?
Well, the Biocant Park is the first Portuguese science and technology park completely devoted for biotechnology, mainly health sciences and, I would say, agricultural purposes. And we started 2 years ago talking with Brandon, and fortunately they chose Cantanhede and the Biotech Park. I think it was very important to have their platforms, technological platforms, support the R&D activity from Tilray and other companies. We have around 50% there, 50% of the Portuguese biotech companies, they are at Cantanhede in Biocant Park. So it was very important for us, and has been mayor for the municipality, and the municipality has a strong investment in the Biocant Park. It was very nice to see that Tilray chose Cantanhede as the European campus for producing cannabis for medical purposes. So there's a big investment to come, there are employment, and I would say that every company, biotech company, would like to come to Portugal can choose Cantanhede and the Biocant Park to come and have the gate for the European community.
Brendan, why did you choose Portugal as your European hub? And what are your plans for the rest of Europe?
So we started exporting from North America last June. So cannabis had never been exported from North America. It had never been imported into the EU. Since then, we've exported to 7 countries on 4 continents: Australia, New Zealand, Chile, the Czech Republic, Croatia, Cyprus, Germany. And we're seeing increasing demand around the world, especially within the EU. Germany is one of the largest pharmaceutical markets in the world. And so we were looking for another place outside of Canada to not only cultivate our plants, but then also to process and manufacture pharmaceutical grade cannabis products. And so we looked throughout the EU and in other countries around the world. And we chose Portugal first because it has an ideal climate for growing plants, for growing anything, lots of sunshine, affordable labor, a good regulatory framework for pharmaceutical production. And then the second search was, once we picked a country, we had to figure out where inside of Portugal to locate our facility. And the facility at Biocant in Cantanhede is full of lots of different research companies that have some shared services and technology that we can use to accelerate the development of our products. And so there's not only is there facilities, but there's also a large group of professionals who we could recruit to come work for Tilray in Portugal.
Mm-hmm. So how do you secure that there's always enough talent in biotech that the companies can rely on?
Sorry?
How do you secure that there is enough talent, that there's enough people who studied biotech or other?
In Biocant Park, we are now around 300 people working, researchers, most of them in private companies that I told before. Some of them, they are researchers that are involved on the technological platforms we have to offer kind of service to all the companies from biotech companies. And I would say that we are now growing, but we are on the second stage, that is to attract, like we could fortunately do it with Tilray, to attract investment, big companies, and the municipality has in its policy what we call industrial zone from Biocant. So nearby Biocant Park, we have these allotments to can set the companies that would like to come to Portugal.
Let's talk a little bit about the marijuana market as a whole. More and more countries are legalizing marijuana for medical use. What do you think is driving the tide?
I didn't hear the last part.
What do you think is the driving force behind the legalization in so many countries?
I think there's tremendous pressure on policymakers, elected officials, regulators, ministers of health around the world, from patient groups, whether they're mothers of children with pediatric epilepsy. Tilray conducts clinical trials around the world. In Australia, chemotherapy-induced nausea. In Canada, pediatric epilepsy and PTSD and COPD. We're getting ready to announce a trial in Europe and the EU for brain tumors, glioblastomas. And so there's this pressure for additional research on this product that has been really prohibited over the last 50 to 100 years, depending on which country. And so that pressure is pushing countries such as Germany, which legalized medical cannabis, really went from not talking about medical cannabis products to legalizing it in less than a year. There's pressure on countries like Germany to conduct research and to legalize this product. And it's happening, the velocity of change, most people don't realize this, but the velocity of change in the EU is faster than North America, in the US or Canada. You know, even in the past few weeks, Poland announced a medical cannabis regulatory framework that they're looking at. Italy is moving very quickly, Ireland, and so this is happening very quickly inside of the EU.
Mm-hmm. What about your competitors? I haven't heard about big pharma companies investing in legal medical marijuana yet. What's the reason for that? What do you think?
I think most of the big pharma companies are looking for novel molecules that they can patent, but we are starting to see large pharmaceutical companies who have focused on opioids and the manufacture of pharmaceuticals based on opioid alkaloids start to look at this industry because they're seeing a shift in many countries away from opioids, and pharmaceuticals based on cannabis may be replacements for many of these opioid-based products.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're coming towards the end of this session, so as promised, I'd like to survey the crowd once more. Whom of you does think that all countries should legalize marijuana for medical use? Show up your hands. Yeah, it's pretty all of them, don't you see? Yeah, good. And who thinks that it should be legalized for recreational use? Yeah, not all of them, but close to, you think? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this debate about medical marijuana very much. Thank you to both of the panelists, and good luck for biotech in Portugal and for marijuana all over Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.